It started with a gift day, simple handmade quilt stitched with love, memory, and patience, something I thought would make her feel welcomed into our family, but instead she laughed, not the kind of laugh that comes from surprise a bit, the kind that slices through your heart and leaves it bleeding quietly. She threw it in the trash, rolled it junk in that moment. She didn't just discard a gift, she discarded me, and that's when I decided if they couldn't value what's given with love feed. Soon learn the cost of losing it all. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had your love thrown back in your face? Tap. Like, if you believe karma remembers what people forget, subscribe, because my silence that day became the loudest revenge of my life. It was a week before my son's wedding. The house smelled like jasmine and stress. I was rushing to finish everything between the caterers, the dress fittings, and the endless phone calls. I still made time to do something that truly came from the heart. A quilt, not just fabric, but memories stitched together. One square from his baby blanket, one from his first school uniform, a piece of my late husband's old shirt still carrying that faint scent of sandalwood. When I handed it to her, my soon-to-be daughter-in-law barely looked up. She smiled, but it wasn't real. Then she said, "Oh, how old-fashioned," and within seconds, she turned to her friends and laughed. "We don't need your junk," she said, and tossed it aside like grocery bag. The room went quiet. My son looked at me, but said nothing. He didn't defend me, and somehow that silence from him hurt more than her insult. That night, I went to my room and sat beside the half-open suitcase of wedding receipts. I looked at all the bookings, the deposits, the gifts, the plans, and I thought to myself, maybe it's time they see what life looks like without my help. People think revenge starts with anger. It doesn't. It starts with calm, the kind of calm that feels like the eye of a storm, quiet but full of power, waiting to be unleashed. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table. The sunlight fell on the quilt she had thrown away. I had picked it up quietly. After everyone left, I folded it carefully, placed it back in the chest where I keep things that matter, and then I picked up the phone. "Hello," I said. "This is Mrs. Taylor. I'd like to cancel the wedding venue booking." The planner hesitated. "But ma'am, it's next week." I smiled. "Yes, but apparently my contribution is needed," and that was just the beginning. I made the calls one by one, the florist, the caterer, the band, the decorator, each one under my name, each one funded by my account. "Refund the payment." I said calmly. "No, I don't want to reschedule, just cancel." They asked why. I simply replied, "Because the bride doesn't need my junk by sunset." The entire wedding they had built on my generosity was gone. Just like that. No shouting, no confrontation, only silence, and silence, when used right, is the most elegant form of revenge. The day arrived. The house was buzzing with guests and laughter, at least for the first hour. Then, one by one, the smiles began to fade. No flowers, no catering, no photographer, no music, just an empty hall, confused guests, and a furious bride demanding answers. When the wedding planner finally told her everything had been canceled by the pair, her face drained of color. The same lips that laughed at me now trembled, and that's when I walked in, calm, composed, dressed in the same lavender sari I wore on my own wedding day, a silent reminder that respect never goes out of fashion. She looked at me and shouted, "Did you do this?" I smiled softly and said, "Yes, because you were right. You didn't need my junk." The guests left one by one. The music never played. The lights dimmed early that evening, and I finally felt something I hadn't in years: peace. A few weeks later, my son came to visit alone. He looked different. The arrogance was gone. The pride had melted. He sat down and said, "Mom, I'm sorry, I should have stopped her." I looked at him and said, "Son, you didn't lose her because of me. You lost her because of how you treated the one who made you." He lowered his head, and for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt free. Since then, I've stopped sewing for others. Now I sew for myself for joy, not approval. I opened a little boutique downtown called Anna's Attic, and every quilt I make, every stitch I sew feels like a piece of my soul coming back home. My revenge wasn't loud. It didn't destroy lives, it exposed them, because when you take away the things they don't appreciate, you show them exactly how much they depended on your love. So to every woman watching this, have you ever been disrespected by someone you helped rise? Tap like if you believe silence can be the sharpest revenge. Subscribe for more stories where pain becomes power and peace becomes justice, because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't shouting or crying or proving you're worth it. It's walking awake and slaying the wedding end, letting karma handle the rest.